everyone. Welcome in to the Sports Objective. We appreciate everyone tuning in whenever and however you're watching or listening, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Our show can also be found in audio only or podcast form, pretty much everywhere podcasts are found, including Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Follow us on social media on Twitter and TikTok at the Sports OBJ, on Instagram at the Sports Objective. Like and follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We kicked off our Division One baseball preview for the state of North Carolina yesterday as we caught up with first-year head coach of the High Point Panthers, Joey Hammond. We're going to stick within the Big South Conference today and head out to the western part of North Carolina and catch up with the eighth-year head coach of the UNC-Asheville Bulldogs, Scott Friedholm. Coach, we hope you're doing well. We appreciate your time this morning.
Well, thanks for having me on again, Bubba, and I love that we're covering North Carolina baseball like this, so anything to help out, and hopefully we're getting the snow out of here soon and get some warmer weather coming in up here too.
Coach, tell us a little, before we dive into this year's club, a little about the 2021 season. Obviously, you didn't have the success that you would have liked, but at the same time, there was definitely some bright spots. And just from an overall team perspective, I know you during the middle part of the year, you had a big series win over the likes of Campbell, which is anybody that knows anything about college baseball knows how Campbell has been so successful in recent seasons.
Yeah, so we started out a little bit slow in the season. Obviously, only playing 45 games or scheduled to play 45 games. We actually got 48 in. We are one of only a few or a handful of schools that were actually able to add some games to their schedule because our guys did such a good job of following some of the rules around the COVID protocol. So, and obviously playing the 40 Big South Conference games was a tough grind for our guys. But, we actually did some really good things in the middle there. We, for the first time ever in school history, we had won 4 consecutive Big South Conference weekends, and then actually followed it up with the 5th one in a row, which was pretty impressive for our group of guys. So winning 5 consecutive Big South Conference weekends was great. The tough part that we struggled with was, one, we got a little bit tired towards the end. We didn't quite have the depth that we all wanted, and only having a 35-man roster last year because our university asked us to do that, where some other schools that we may have gone against were at 55, 60 people. We were asked to stay at 35, so we stayed at our 35, and I think we just got a little bit tired towards the end. And then the other thing that hurt us too, Bubba, was we had 4 midweek conference games because of the new schedule, which was great. I mean, anytime we can play more, we obviously wanted to play, but we just didn't have the depth on that and the pitching staff to cover those 4 midweek games for the Big South Conference. So we did a great job on the weekends. We just got a little bit tired of during the midweeks and towards the end of the season. But for us to say that we won 5 consecutive Big South Conference weekends was a good step in the right direction for us, and hopefully it's something we can build on moving forward.
Coach, before we really dive into this year's roster, I want to talk very quickly about one of the key pieces. You lose off of the 2021 club, Brandon Langford. He became the program's all-time home run leader last season.
Yeah, losing Brandon, you're basically now going to have to readjust the way you play the game, because Brandon you could always count on for that 3-run homer in the middle of the game to get you right back into the game or extend your lead. So I think we're going to have to change the way that we play a little bit more aggressive as far as on the bases, getting that extra base on a dirt ball read. Where you used to be in scoring position for Brandon when you were on first base. So it does change a little bit of what we do offensively, but it also is exciting because we are going to change a little bit of what we do offensively. I don't think we're going to strike out as much. I think we're going to try to, put the ball in play, maybe do a little more run and hit and run, bunt, those types of things, and just play a little bit more aggressive as we can on the bases and trying to get that extra base on a ball in the gap, whatever it may be. So, we can never replace Brandon Langford offensively, and he was a really good third baseman for us as well. So we're going to miss him in 2 spots, but there's a couple other guys that we're going to miss too. One was Cole Harris, who was our all-time saves leader and ended up being our Sunday starter last year and had a really good year for us. So, there's a couple pieces that we missed, but hopefully we got some guys in the transfer portal or some recruits, and that's going to be able to fill their spots this year.
I know you have several key pieces back, though, and one of those is certainly All Big South first team selection utility player Dominic Freeburger. Last year he led the team in hits, and he has tremendous flexibility. I was reading some notes that your SID, Andy Fisher, had sent me, and he said that he had played 7 different positions, and he became the team's primary closer toward the end of the season. Excuse me.
Yeah, Bubba, for a lack of a better phrase, he's our Bugs Bunny. And he is probably our best player at every position if we gave him 2 weeks worth of work before we did it. So we got to make sure we get him practice at third base, shortstop, second base, first base. The one position that he has never played in a game, and scouts have talked about it possibly being his position at the next level, and we let him do it in practice, is catcher. So he'll catch some bullpens for us just so he's comfortable doing it if he has that opportunity to do it at the next level. But he can play center field, any of the outfield positions. It's just one of those guys that we are very fortunate to have because what we try to do is where we think we may be the weakest that day defensively, that's when we'll put Dominic in that spot and try to shore up that spot defensively. So, and then like Andy had mentioned, he's kind of come into his own in the bullpen as our ninth inning guy or ninth inning guy. We've got a couple new guys coming in this year that might be able to help him out where Dom doesn't have to pitch quite as much. Maybe we throw him on a Friday night or a Saturday night rather than the Sunday as well, where he's probably a little bit tired from playing 27 innings of baseball and then asking him to close out that last game. So hopefully some guys can step up in the back end of the bullpen. So we're fortunate to have him. But we have 2 other guys that we think can do that type of thing as well. One is a sophomore, Ty Kaufman, who played basically every day in right field for us last year as a freshman, but has a chance to be our starting second baseman. This year will probably be our backup shortstop this year, can play a little bit of third. And then we have another freshman, Robbie Burnett, that can play some second base, some outfield. So we have a little bit of flexibility with those guys that they can move at different places and hopefully their athleticism is going to show on the base paths as well for us and steal a few bases as well.
In addition to Ty, I know Wade Chandler was mentioned, and also is a Grayson Pressler.
Yeah, those 2 guys basically were our starting center fielder, left fielder the whole year last year, at least the last 25, 30 games. And I give Wade Chandler a lot of credit. He played hurt last year, the last 2 weeks, and didn't tell me. But come to find out, he had a fracture in his foot, but wanted to play and gutted it out the last 2 weeks, and I couldn't tell. So it was good to have him back healthy, and then having our switch hitter Grayson Pressler be able to play left field again for us. And he's only a junior, so we got 2 more years of him. And if he can continue to have the success and the growth that he's had over the last 2 years, we're excited about this junior year where he's got a chance to hit for some power for us. Not Brandon Langford type power where it's 13, 14 type home runs. It's more of a 10 doubles, 2 triples, and maybe 5 to 6 home runs, and be able to hit out of that 5 or 6 spot for us. I think that would be great for us, and to have Wade in the leadoff spot, a guy that can just put the bat on the ball, doesn't strike out a whole lot for us, and a good leadoff hitter for us, and have some seniority at the top and some age at the top. Where with him and Dominic, both seniors, we've got some guys that had over 400 at bats in their college career. So we're excited about the top of our order.
Before we talk about your pitching staff, I wanted to mention, I know you return your top 2 catchers, and obviously that bodes well in terms of the development of your pitching staff. So if you would talk about those 2 young men.
Yeah. PJ Heinz is a senior this year, a little bit stricken with the injury bug in the legs, a couple, minor things, calf, hamstring, groin, whatever it may be. And then MJ Lucas, who was a junior this year, who's basically caught every game the last 2 years. when PJ went down. So we're excited about that. One's a right-hander, PJ's a right-hander, MJ's a left-hander, so that gives us some flexibility with the batting order, depending on whether we're facing a lefty or a righty. But you're absolutely right. To have a junior and a senior back there that have some experience, that have both played over 50 games or so roughly, and they now know what to expect and what each pitcher likes to do and what they don't like to do, and handle the bunt game, handle the first and thirds, kind of take charge of that infield. It's nice to have. But with that said, I'm excited about the other two catchers that we have. Is Furman Osio, who was a shortstop that came in, and we've transferred him into a catcher and has made unbelievable strides. And then we have a freshman, Brock Mercado from New Jersey, that we think is going to be pretty special here, left-handed hitter. I don't think he got some of the looks at the quote-unquote bigger schools because of his size, but watching him play defense and watching him hit every day, I think he's got the ability to become a starter here in the Big South for us in a year or two. So we're excited about that growth.
Shifting over to your pitching staff, taking a look at Jacob Edwards. Last year, he led your staff in several categories. He won the Big South Starting Pitcher of the Week award twice. And then you also return guys like Honeycutt and Little.
Yeah, Jacob is exactly, and I hate saying this because I don't know if he likes it or not, but he's exactly what you expect out of a pitcher whose dad is a pitching coach at the collegiate level. Jerry Edwards was the pitching coach at a lot of places, but most recently UNC Greensboro before he made the move to Jacksonville University. So Jacob's one of those guys. Again, I think we got him because he's a little bit undersized for a left-hander, but pound for pound, I would put him up against anyone strength-wise as far as what he can do with a deadlift, with a squat, any of those things. He's just a strong kid, mature. He can command. When I say command, he can command 4 pitches. So he gives us a chance to give those 6 or 7 innings every time every time we give him the ball. The other ones you mentioned was Justin Honeycutt is back, had a good freshman year. We're looking for him to hopefully build off of that. Blake Little has kind of changed his body. He's put on 30 pounds or so in the offseason, and his velo has ticked up a bit, which we're excited about. And then there are 2 guys that you did not mention that I'm excited about. One is Bryce Fisher, who is a sophomore, but had a tough freshman year. When I say tough, just learning wise, as he handled it well. He didn't have the success that he wanted, but he didn't let it get him down. And we always talk to him about how everybody is running a different race. The goal line is always the same, but everybody's on different timing. And he has taken a jump in this offseason. He did some work with tread when he was home. And he's put on about 25, 30 pounds as well. His velo is taking a tick up. He's got command of 3 pitches now. So we're expecting big things. And then Ryan Douglas is a junior right-hander that was a freshman. I don't know what it was. Perfect game All-American, one of the All-Americans, and just had a tough COVID year, to be quite honest with you, coming back. And, the sophomore blues are real with that. And everybody handled that year differently. But he has come back, and the work that he has put in, and he threw his first inter-squad on Friday night and, went out and threw 65 pitches and didn't give up a hit, was very efficient. I think he threw 4 innings and 65 pitches. So we're excited to see his growth. And, I'm sure we'll talk about some other guys, but those are the guys that are coming back that we're excited to see hopefully take another step forward.
Yeah, and you've mentioned, and this has been a common theme, it seems like, and ever increasingly a common theme in college baseball in recent years, as far as two-way players kind of making a reappearance, if you will. And I mentioned some of those that fall into that boat earlier on, but just talk about your thoughts on that in general, and guys that fall into that category for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, we obviously try to look for, if it's possible, if we think they're good enough to do it both ways. Perfect example currently is Dominic Freeburger, our closer, but he's our starting everything. And he has the ability to do it. He also has the work ethic to do it. Jacob Edwards, the left-hander, our number one, came in actually as a two-way guy, and for 2 years was a two-way position player, pitcher for us. But we've never told a player that they're not allowed to do it when we're recruiting them and when they get here. What usually tends to happen for us, at least, I don't know about other programs, is they tend to have more success in one side of the ball versus the other, and then they make the decision on their own that, hey, I want to spend a little bit more time on the mound. I'm having a bit more success. I don't want anything to take away from that. We have a freshman right now, Isaac Williams, that had Tommy John before he got here. He had it in high school or in the summer after high school before he got here. But, he's back starting to hit now. So he might have a chance to hit a little bit for us and then be a left-handed pitcher next year as well. So I think more and more kids are able to do it. It's just really hard with the time management, because you're not a pitcher Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or a hitter on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You're both every single day. So you got to be willing to come out and do the extra work that day, whether it be the bullpen or some extra work in the cages, because you might be on the mound that day in the game, so you might not get as many at bats. So I think more and more guys want to do it. I think at this level it gets harder and harder for them, and the ones that are truly special as far as their time management are able to do both. And like I said, we will never be the ones to tell them that they can't do it. It generally comes to the time where they make the decision. It's usually after the first semester sophomore year or after the sophomore year that they realize they have maybe a career or a better path moving in just one position.
Coach, I know back in the fall you added 14 players to your roster, a combination of high school, junior college, and Division I transfers. So just, if you would, talk about your new pieces to the 2022 roster.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the transfers and the JUCOs first, and we're excited about them because we think we shored up a few spots that we really struggled with towards the end, and we talked about it earlier where we thought we kind of fell off towards the end last year, and it was really on the pitching side and the back end of the bullpen. And we brought in a transfer from Northern Illinois, Spencer Hill. We brought in a JUCO pitcher from New Jersey, Chris Sabo, and then we brought in another Division I transfer from Delaware State, Cole Bates. And all of those guys are similar in the sense of they all can command two pitches, but they have some velo in the back end of the bullpen. Where they're all, 90, 92, 93, 94 type guys. Spencer Hill's been up to 97 in the fall for us. So, we think we now add Dominic Freeburger to that mix, and you have 4 or 5 guys that are 92 or above in the back end of your bullpen, which we're excited about. And then the 2 position players or 3 position players transfers that we added. One of them is a third baseman. We had to fill that gap for Brandon Langford leaving. Is Dylan Bako from Southeastern. And then we added his teammate, Tylen Reese, who is another guy that can play a little bit of second, maybe a little bit of third, definitely some outfield, but his bat is what is going to keep him in the lineup. And then we grabbed a shortstop, second baseman, kind of another utility guy, can play a little bit of first from my previous stop from Boston College, Corbin Lanowitz. So to add 3 older guys that we think are going to be able to hit in the middle of our lineup, we're excited about. But the wild cards are always those freshmen because they're only 18, they're making this jump. But I've been really impressed with our position guys thus far. Robbie Burnett, we've already spoke about, middle infielder, North Carolina kid, left-handed hitting. Can really, really run. Ran a 6.5 at Scout Day. So we're really happy with him. Kid named Hunter Freisowitz out of South Carolina in the outfield that we think has a chance to hit and be a left fielder or a right fielder. And Caden Smith has got a chance to hit for us, another outfielder. And then we brought in 4 arms, 2 of them. And, this is the debate you always have to have, Bubba, and I'm sure you've talked to other coaches about this. You're getting the best high school arms on these high school teams, because they're going on to play at the Division I level, and sometimes they get overused. The junior summer, the senior season, the junior season, and we got Isaac Williams and Brandon Barnett, who was the pitcher of the year in his league in Florida, the Class 6A or one of the higher ones, but both of them ended up having to have Tommy John after their senior year. So we won't be able to see them on the mound for a little bit. But we got Cole Schiff, a left-hander, big kid, 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds, but strong, did the tread workout this offseason. Was 88 to 90 his last time out on the bump in his first outing for 2 or 3 innings with us. And Jacob Williams, another 6'4" right-hander out of North Carolina. Again, another one that had a surgery after his senior year, but he's going to be healthy enough to be able to help us out this year. So we're excited about those guys. And I think that's all 14. I don't think and our freshman catcher that we already talked about, Brock Mercado. That would be the 14 guys. I didn't miss anyone, did I?
I think you got them all. And
okay.
Before I get to a comment I had regarding the arm care topic that you brought up, you mentioned that name, Chris Sabo. Is he a historian of the game? Have you made him aware? I'm sure he was already aware of.
He's already aware, but there is no relationship, or at least that he knows of or that I am aware of. But
you got him some rec specs, Coach.
We might just do it for fun, but no, he is. But man, I wish he could play third base like that too.
Yeah. I do believe that Chris Sabo was a multi-sport athlete as well. I believe I was reading that about this Chris Sabo's, or in his bio, that he was a multi-sport athlete. 6'2".
Yeah, actually, our Chris Sabo first started at Merrimack College up in Boston, where I'm from, as a football player, tight end football player for the Merrimack football team. Realized after a year that football was not what he wanted. Went to a junior college back home in New Jersey. Got himself back in baseball shape. Obviously, he was strong, but had to get his arm back in baseball shape. So, and then we were fortunate enough to snag him up, and we've got him for 3 years because of the COVID year did not count for the junior college guys. So we got him for 3 years. We're excited about him. And but yeah, multi-sport guys love it. It's harder to do. I got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old that play basketball and baseball, but it's getting harder and harder to do because, and I don't blame any coaches, and I don't mean but coaches want them to obviously focus on their sport and what they think they have a future in. So it's getting harder and harder for these guys.
You bring up your 10-year-old and 13-year-old. I have a son who's 10, and he's pitched a little bit over the last year or so. But when you take a look at it, back to the topic of arm care, I've always kind of just shook my head, and people, they're well-intentioned. And they think they understand what's going on, and sometimes it is the case. But more often than not, a lot of these Tommy John injuries, the seeds for that have been planted back in their travel ball days and in high school years, and when they're on pitching staffs and aren't nearly as deep as what they, what they're a part of on a college campus. So, just what are your thoughts on that? I know in recent seasons, recent years, I should say, that there has been an increasing emphasis on that in terms of pitch counts and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is, Bubba, but there's two problems, I think, personally. And again, I can't speak for anybody else but myself, and I'm watching it now with a 13 and a 10-year-old both play, both pitch. But I'm also watching it at the high school ranks in the sense, and it's two different arguments. One is we got 15 and 16-year-old kids now throwing 88 to 92, and I'm not sure their body is ready to do that. But who's going to stop them? And I'm not going to be the one to stop them. They're having success, but I think eventually that catches up to them where their arm just wasn't quite ready for that, or their body wasn't quite ready to support what their arm was doing, and there might be an injury. There might be. It doesn't mean there necessarily will be, but there might be. And most of these guys have Tommy John, and they all come back healthy and they're ready to go again. It just seems like kids are throwing harder at an earlier age nowadays from when, now I'm old, from when I was, growing up. we didn't see 90 until we hit college. There weren't many high school guys throwing 90 in the high school ranks. The second part, which I think is more of a problem than that currently, is the setup for tournaments at a younger age is by innings and not number of pitches. And what I mean by that is currently for a 13-year-old who travels and plays AAU, and 99.9% of their tournaments aren't perfect game yet. So they're allowed 8 innings in a weekend to throw. So you can have a pitcher go out and throw 3 innings on Saturday, which is fine, but no one realizes that he threw 85 pitches to get those 3 innings, and now he's able to throw 5 innings the next day. I'm not sure anyone's arm is ready to go 85 pitches and then throw 5 more innings or 4 more innings the next day and be doing that on a weekend, week out basis. So I think that is part of the problem. Personally, I think more of these tournaments need to go towards what the perfect game does, and it goes off of pitch count. And I know people can or cheat the system on the pitch count with perfect game by letting them throw 24 pitches and then get them out of there so they can throw an inning or 2 tomorrow, or let them throw 39 pitches and so they can throw 2 innings in 2 days rather than have to wait 3 days. But I just think it seems like more of a set parameter that we're worried about the actual number of throws, not number of innings, because the number of innings, I think the pitches can get away from coaches. And I don't blame the coaches, but when you're 10 years old, 13 years old, it sometimes just takes you a lot of pitches to get through 3 innings, because you may walk 2 guys but strike out 3, and there was an error in there, so you end up throwing 25 pitches in an inning, but hey, no one scored, so that was a good inning. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it makes perfect sense, and that's one of the things I've thought when my son's been playing. I mean, not necessarily with him, but just his teammates or teams we were playing against. I mean, yep. you see that inning rule. Well, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, is that 10 pitches? Odds are it's not going to be, as we know, but occasionally that may happen. So if it does happen, why are you penalizing somebody that threw 10, 15, 20 pitches and pitched well, making them where they cannot pitch, and then you have someone that's throwing 80 or 90, and then they're able to come back because they didn't pitch their max amount of innings.
Correct. And I have this debate with people all the time, like what's your max pitch count? Well, obviously what your max pitch count is different in college, and it's different from a freshman versus a senior because their bodies are different. But my general rule is, well, what I tell people is I'll let a guy, and let's exaggerate the numbers. I would never allow this, but I would let a guy throw 250 pitches if we're playing 18 innings and he goes out and throws 12 pitches every inning. His arm is never taxed. His body is never taxed. If he can go out and throw 12 pitches, come in and take 8 to 10 minutes off, he could do that for 6-7 hours straight, and he would never be tired. It's those innings where you have to throw 25 to 35 pitches, and we don't take that into consideration. Oh, that's only just 1 inning. He's only at 95 pitches. Well, it's only the 4th inning, and he's at 95 pitches. He should be at 95 pitches in the 8th inning, in the 9th inning. So that's where my argument comes into play.
And final thing along these lines, and before we shift and talk about your schedule and wrap the show up, but kind of within the same realm, they kind of go hand in hand at times. I mean, you talk about the training, and you talk about taking care of your arm. So many coaches and especially parents that want their kids to get a scholarship, they push. Sometimes they don't realize that in order to push, you're kind of pulling back the reins and work smarter and shut their arms down for a period of time rather than throw or whatever the case may be. So just talk about that, and then also very quickly just the topic of specialization. You could go on all day about that, I'm sure, but versus being a specializing athlete versus a multi-sport athlete.
Yeah. Well, one, I'm a firm believer that baseball is a 9-month sport as far as the throwing portion of it, that we have to give 2 to 3 months off from throwing. Ideally, for us, I'd like to give guys 2 months in a row off. And then they get another, month off somewhere else throughout the year, whether it be after summer ball and for that 4 weeks or 5 weeks before we start cranking up fall ball again. We have a player that one of our transfer guys that came in his first outing here, he threw fine, but his velocity was not where it needed to be. And we shut him down that day. Literally, he threw 2 innings the first outing of the fall. It wasn't the velocity that we had seen him or recruited him at. So we shut him down, and he just, threw his first innings again after Christmas. So we gave him 2.5 months off, then built him up to where he threw his first 2 innings, and his velocity was back to where it was where we saw him. And he said that was the first time he'd given his arm more than 1 to 2 weeks off in the last 5 to 6 years. And his arm hadn't felt this good and his body hadn't felt this good in this long. So, even if it means not hurting our team, but taking a step back from our team and losing some of those innings in the fall, I think it's going to help us in the spring by getting him healthy and ready to go where we need to be. The same is true high school. The same as like my boys. They got done October 30th, and they were not allowed to pick up a baseball until January 1st. And that's what we told them. Like, you're going to take 2 months, go play basketball. So they're playing basketball. We can hit. We can do other things. We can take ground balls, but you're not going to throw. And that's just what we've been doing on the side. As far as specialization, we talked about it. If they can play 2 sports all the way through up into high school and even through high school, I think it's huge. But I said, and I'm starting to learn now it's getting harder and harder. But I don't think they should specialize in the game of baseball until college. I think all of them can pitch, can play outfield, should be able to play a little first base, something in the infield, do different things within the game of baseball. I think they can all do some type of training, whether it's speed training, where they're just working different parts of their body. That's not necessarily the game of baseball, but it's going to help them in the long run, work some different muscles that they don't necessarily use. So huge fan of people that are doing different things. You see it at the age of 13, the guys that are able to do different sports, their bodies just work better in the game of baseball. Their balance is better, their cutting is better, their first step in stealing bases is better, their reads of things are better. And to be quite honest with you, their ability to compete is better. And they handle things a little bit better that don't go their way, rather than guys that just play baseball or just do one thing. So I think it's not only a physical thing, I think it's a mental ability that helps them as well.
And lastly, Coach, and let's shift back to your ball club this season, the 2022 schedule. You get right into it, going to Blacksburg for 3 against ACC team in Virginia Tech, and then you also have a game against Tennessee.
Yeah, Bubba, this wasn't the plan, to be quite honest with you. We actually had to change our whole schedule when COVID hit. Our athletic department, which I completely understand, and I am backing 100%. We were supposed to go down to North Alabama our opening weekend, then go to Alabama, Birmingham. Both trips were about 6 hours for us, and then we were going to go to Elon. So our schedule was not planning to open up like this, but for cost purposes and the ability to drive the day of and stay out of a hotel one less night, we've had to change we changed our whole preseason schedule to keep it within a 4-hour radius of campus, so we could drive the day of if we need to, and those types of things. So, we're going to head up to Virginia Tech, which is going to be obviously a very tough opponent, right out of the gates. Then we go to Tennessee, which is a normal year for us. Tennessee, and I thank Tony every year and appreciate it. He gives us one midweek game a year and has been willing to come to Asheville, and was actually planning to come to Asheville last year, but we had to cancel because of COVID and things like that. So we're going to go to Tennessee, and then we open up at home February 25th against Niagara out of New York. Then we go to Mercer in Georgia, which is I think it's like 4 hours and 15 minutes. Our athletic department agreed that we could still do that. And then we are going to jump in a small little tournament for a weekend with ETSU and Ryder out of New Jersey and just play on that Saturday for a doubleheader before we get into our conference schedule. So it's a tough opening 4 weekends, but we're getting back to the quote unquote normalcy, hopefully, and playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, get a chance to stay in some hotels and see where we're at before we get into the very, very tough Big South schedule.
And you mentioned the Big South. Very quickly, to talk about the Big South Conference and how things look.
Some new coaches in the Big South this year. You already mentioned at High Point, new coach at Longwood. So there's going to be some new styles of play there that we're going to have to get used to. Obviously Campbell has been the class of the league the last 2 or 3 years, and Presbyterian won our conference last year, which was great to see for Coach Pollock. Very happy for him and Presbyterian. It just shows that anyone can win this league. They went in as the 4 seed last year. We only took 4 teams to the conference tournament rather than our normal 8. And last year we would have been the 6 or 7 seed. So we would have had a chance in a normal year to play for it. But I was happy to see Elton win it. And because of that, we got a 2-bid league with Campbell getting in. And we were very close with USC Upstate, and what Coach McGuire's done down there is unbelievable. So, Upstate, Campbell, Winthrop is always going to be strong. Gardner Webb and their new coaching staff, they've got a formula going down there that works very well, and they tend just to get older each year and do a lot of the transfer with the grad school, which power to them. Wish we could do that here, but we don't have grad school. So, they're able to get some guys that are on their 5th year of college baseball, and like I said, they are bringing in guys that are 22 years old and strong and know the game very well. So all the power to them. So they're obviously going to be very good as well. But we're obviously going to be fighting, I think, or hopefully for that. I think we're going to go 6 teams this year for the conference tournament. So we're fighting to get into that conference tournament and try to get that 4, 5, 6 spot and give ourselves a chance in High Point this year where they're going to host the tournament. So we're excited to get it going. We're excited to knock on wood and hopefully have a great Big South conference season this year.
Well, Coach, really appreciate the visit. You've been more than generous with your time this morning, and with the season right around the corner, we really appreciate it. And we'd love to have you back on down the road.
Would love it. And Bubba, thanks for everything you do for the state of North Carolina and college baseball. I think it's awesome. So keep it up on your end too. Thank you.